Well, we're here for the topic of awareness. Um, but I actually have a question about awareness and plus, minus, and zero. Um, could you explain how awareness and plus, minus, zero relate to each other? Um, and to better understand um, how the zero part I understand as being, in a way, you could say, uh, maybe not pure consciousness, but being. Um, but how does the plus and the minus relate to the zero when it comes to awareness? Could you explain more about that?
Yeah, let's start really at the beginning uh, to have a more baseline understanding of what awareness is. Because awareness, as you can imagine, is a concept that is being used in a really large variety of context.
Mhm.
Um, so if we understand that the plus is the person and his life and his environment, then awareness plays a very basic part in that, because you need to be aware of yourself and your environment to be able to navigate your way through life. Yes, in a very practical way. Think of a child that is born into a body that is in an environment
Mhm.
where it realizes that it has a body and hands and feet, and that it can touch things, and it can start to become familiar with its environment. And later, in a more and more sophisticated way, interaction with people, that things can break, that things can hurt, um, emotional awareness that certain emotions, need to be met, and if not, then the baby will scream, cry. And so in a later stage, we have this developed personality, and we still use awareness in exactly the same way, but now we have already cultivated sophisticated mechanisms. We have a lot of habits, learned a lot. But at the basis of it all, there's still awareness, because the moment you shut awareness off,
Mhm.
you're gone, right? You're unaware. So you could say you're asleep.
Mhm.
Um, so that's the basic function of awareness on the plus side of the formula. In the minus side of the formula, you could say, is where you start to kind of go within. It's more an internal awareness, less external, more internal. How do you feel? How do you feel about things? Yeah. Um, the question of who are you? What do you want? What feels good? Which is also an important part of your external navigational experience, because how do you know what to choose if you don't have an inner tentacle that senses how it feels, how it is?
Mhm.
So then the zero, you could say, is the awareness itself. So it is the light that goes through the lens of feelings and emotions and your inner sensory system in an external environment that we refer to as life.
Mhm.
Right? So when you put it next to each other, these three components of awareness, how I feel about it, and reality, we have you could say, the basic components of a kind of a navigational system that allows us to choose and to make choices that contribute to where we want to go, and to check if it feels good, which is, let's say, the heart of the navigational experience. Not just because you think it's going to be good, you actually want it to be good. That has to be experienced. So people with a higher emotional intelligence, people who have brought awareness to their inner world, they navigate that better than people who just make rational decisions that are quite unfamiliar with the emotional spectrum, you could say.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that already gives you a little hint of how sometimes we need to look at what to bring awareness to further develop ourselves and our capacity to make better choices.
Sometimes the zero is considered more like a witness that has a little bit more of an observational role to evaluate what is being felt or evaluate what is coming through the external world into the inner world and to the being of the person.
Yeah, so
Could you
what's
say,
interesting about the zero is that, sorry to interrupt, but what is interesting about the zero, and when we teach that to people, is that for a moment they have to kind of stop doing what they're doing, being less focused into the personality and whatever that personality is focused on in their lives or in their reality, but to say, okay, let's stop for a moment, let's turn the television off, let's go within, and let's just take a distance from our feelings, our thoughts, and our reality in our lives, so that we can have a detached, a kind of a more neutral overview of what's going on. So zero is also a symbol of neutrality. So there's not an immediate judgment. You're not judging it yet. You're not running it through how you feel about it yet, or what your thoughts or your program, what your cultural background has to say about it. So when you really are in the zero, you are just neutral awareness. And so that gives you the status quo, the overview. And then the next step is, how do I feel about what I see? And is what I feel and what I see, is that in alignment with this inner being who I truly am? And if not, then with the plus, you can say, what can I do about it? And then put that into action and create a different reality and move towards a better situation through conscious, self-reflective action.
I have a question about the plus and the minus, because it can be kind of maybe slightly confusing that plus doesn't have to be per definition something positive and minus per definition something negative, right?
No, although plus and minus, it is also fine to use it that way. Your plus and minus can represent many different things. You could even say male, female, right? You could say positive, negative. So what if we use the positive and negative aspect of plus minus and we bring awareness to that? So can you stand still for a moment and go within to just reflect on what is negative in your life, what you are not happy about, what you're struggling with, without judging it, without jumping into any conclusion or action, just to be a witness of that. And maybe based on that self-reflective capacity, focusing on the negative aspects and writing them down. And then next to that, make a list of what it would be like, these negative things, if they would be positive. Then to ask yourself, what can I do? What am I able to do in order for me to change this, what is now negative, into how I would like it to be? And if I would succeed, how would that make me feel? Yeah, so through awareness, neutral assessment, we can use everything that's negative to give birth to something that's positive, even if it's just a positive vision. It all starts with a vision. But once you have a vision, even if it's motivated by a positive vision, even if it's motivated by all that is negative, once you then put your awareness into the positive, and through a creative process of assessment, you can then think of or talk to people about or get support in taking action towards living and creating that vision and that new reality.
if awareness is the neutral part, and it's in a way the heart of of navigating um, the plus and the minus, the external feelings, how you assess what you feel inside, how that feels in alignment with.
I would not call that, feelings are already not neutral, you could say. I would say it is.
Yes. I would say like in when you evaluate moving away from the plus and you're in minus territory and you
Ah,
evaluate how that feels, right? Using awareness as the witness, as the neutral party that observes what it sees in front of it, and assesses, for example, in that example you gave, what could be the positive alternative to that negative
yeah,
feeling.
yeah.
Uh, um, I just lost where I was with what I wanted to originally ask, but um, yes, the question is, you were right at the beginning, you spoke about awareness in the external world, the awareness that you need to navigate, the sensory reality, right? Then you have, which is represented by plus, then you have an internal space, your internal experience that is drawn away from the external world, which is an interior,
How
internal
you feel about it?
minus, yeah, like like that's closer to yourself.
Yeah,
Then you have the 0 point, which is pure awareness, which is witnessing everything that is happening, but without judging it, without putting it in the scale.
yeah.
Uh, so awareness is in all those different dimensions. It's in the external dimension, in internal dimension. It's in the zero part of yourself. Uh, is the role of awareness different in each scenario? So, or is the essence of awareness the same, but just applied to different situations? Like, do you understand what I'm
And
saying?
awareness itself is not biased. It's untouched. It cannot be touched.
Yeah. But if, let's
Because
say the plus, let's say an external world where you're navigating an external world, you're strategizing, you're developing your personality, you're doing things in life. There's a component of awareness that is hopefully present there.
it has
Is
to be
that,
present, otherwise you would not be able to see,
yeah,
hear, feel, touch, taste, think.
but
You would not
still,
notice any of these things. You would basically be asleep.
does it still represent that same neutral party, that witness that is,
Well, you
uh,
have to, like, here is where it gets interesting. Most people are fully identified with the personality, with which we say is not who you are, it's how you are. But
mhm,
when you identify with that, it kind of becomes who you are.
mhm,
And awareness is now kind of like it's like filtered, you could say, like like a like a light that goes through a lens that is then filtered through a story, like a how do you call it, a dia, like a negative,
mhm,
and then
mhm,
creates an image on the screen, which is called reality.
mhm,
So awareness, although awareness is neutral, when it shines through the personality into onto the screen, which is the reality, then we understand that how the personality has been formed over the years and is biased because of that formation,
mhm,
because you see and look at things in your own peculiar way, in your own unique way,
mhm,
but also because of everything that you have experienced in your life, right? Someone who has been exposed to, is an extreme example, someone who has been exposed to a big fire and was traumatized. When I put a lighter in front of that person might have a completely different reaction than another person who didn't have that experience.
mhm, mhm,
So everything that is in our, let's say, historical program affects the way that we see and interpret things. But awareness itself remains neutral. And that's why it's so important to step out of the personality for a moment and to just learn to look through the eyes of that neutral awareness, to make a neutral assessment, and to say, is this person that represents me in the external world, and it is his story, the way that he biases things, is that correct? Or is he just under the influence of negative experiences in the past? Because if that is the conclusion, and you realize because of that assessment that there's a distortion, that your light or your gift or what you deeply want and what you're meant to do in this lifetime, you're not able to do that because you're holding yourself back, because you experience everything through this limited view, and maybe not just a limited view, but maybe you're almost physically and mentally, emotionally blocked to really come out and to reveal your true self and your true light, or bring your gift into the world, or live up to your highest potential, you could say. And what often people find in their lives is that they want certain things, but they have a hard time accomplishing it. And they realize that it's not just by hard work that you get there, but that some inner mechanisms are not allowing you to fully do what you want to do, be who you want to be. And then there are these symptoms that show you that you're struggling, which then leads to visiting a psychologist who explains to you how your historical background formed a personality that has some kind of a disorder, or you start to do deeper work, shadow work, trauma work to resolve these issues in the end, so that that awareness and who you want to be and what you're here to do in this lifetime is no longer being compromised by the personality that you've become. So it's kind of like an unbecoming of who you thought you were, and getting more in alignment with who you truly are and what you really want. But in order to make that connection, you first need to say, like I said earlier, okay, let's pause for a moment. Let's go within and see if I can somehow come home to myself and to take some distance from everything. And so for that, we use different techniques. Meditation can be very helpful. Breath work. There's all sorts of methods out there that can help us bring that focus back to being awareness itself, which is where you start. Because before you become somebody, before you represent anything, do anything, think anything, you are awareness. You are awareness first. Then that awareness has to be expressed in a way that is in alignment with you. And so how do I know if it's in alignment with me? Well, I can sense that, I can feel that. So yes, normally as a person, our awareness is you could say, it kind of shoots out into the world through the five senses, right? Seeing, hearing, feeling, touch.
Taste.
Sorry?
Also taste, right? Like
Yeah, taste. So yes, the five senses, right? But there is a kind of a sixth sense, right? Because we also have intuition. We have more subtle senses also, and they're all part of that navigational system, right? So the five senses are very needed to orientate ourselves into the physical world, but we also need to develop the quality of becoming aware of the subtlety that kind of is able, through which we're able to refine and define what is right for us and what is not right for us. And so once we are able to reconnect our external actions and interactions and we have that sense of self that we can use to sharpen that lens and to differentiate between this yes is contributing to what I want and who I am and is representing me, and this is not. This is a habit that is something that I cultivated over the years to compensate for some lack of love or whatever happened in the past. And I've developed these habits to numb myself, or to make it a little bit easier with myself, or to cover up some part that is hurting or that is dissatisfying. And instead you start to take responsibility in this way. Now you can work on changing these habits. You can say, hey, that habit is not me. That is an old thing. And I need to resolve that issue and let go of the habit and start to consciously choose habits and actions that I can now differentiate and say, this is in alignment with who I am and what I want to accomplish. And of course, the more you can do that, the more progress you can make and the more happiness and success you can create for yourself and for others. Because it's not just about you. When you become that happier, more successful, more authentic person, it will automatically radiate onto everybody you interact with and basically contribute to a better world, as well as you automatically give them permission to do the same. Does that make sense?